Director of Social Entrepreneurship at Brown's Sawyer Center for Public Service. In 2007, we started this journey of bringing social entrepreneurship to Brown through the lens and the experience of student entrepreneurship. We found many students on campus were starting social impact ventures with no institutional support and lots of institutional barriers, and we simply decided that we would get involved and help. And so I was brought in because I had actually spent a couple decades in the private sector being an entrepreneur, and had spent 2 years working for a social enterprise. And so the director of our center, Raja Nizaki, who hired me, did so because he really wanted pragmatic, actionable expertise and advice to help advance the work of these social entrepreneurs. Yesterday, during the opening plenary, the president of U Maryland mentioned that he talked about the fact that only 0.5% maybe are actually entrepreneurs, and what are you going to do for the other 99%? I think that metaphor has maybe also been overused, but what are we going to do for everybody else who thinks social entrepreneurship is where they belong and how they identify, but they're not thinking about starting a social impact venture. In fact, they don't have an idea, and we shouldn't be an entrepreneur if we don't have an idea. On the other hand, there are many other ways to engage in social entrepreneurship, and we began about 3 years ago thinking about a full program, a full platform for student experience that actually engages students in all the ways that universities engage with their students around this idea of social entrepreneurship. So we have launched a couple courses. We've been advising students around independent concentrations. We've helped our public policy department launch a master's program in social enterprise. So we've been partnering across the university to make the study of social innovation and social entrepreneurship easier to find and to actually add capacity to that. The second is we began answering the questions, I love social entrepreneurship, how do I get involved? Well, that usually leads students towards an activity or a club, which actually is not the work of our staff, but rather what we did was we found the clubs that were doing social innovation or social entrepreneurship work, we connected them, and we actually helped them collaborate so that they as a group could be an entry point collectively for students who wanted to get involved in social innovation without changing anything. And it's one of these things where the solution was quite elegant and simple, but really powerful, because now all of a sudden you have a group of groups that have their own identity, their own website, and all it is a portal that points to all these other websites, but it actually gives identity to this idea of social innovation at Brown. And then the third is we began bringing greater visibility and accessibility to internships and jobs in social innovation and entrepreneurship. And we didn't do that either. I love to say to my colleagues that I do 10% of the work and get half the credit. And we did the same thing with our Career Center, where they already had a program called Careers in the Common Good, and we just made that much more visible. We had a listserv that was much more targeted at a specific particular audience. And so we made sure that we were reaching our audience with the jobs and opportunities that they had. But then as our network in social entrepreneurship grew, we also began advertising our opportunities outward. So ours has been a long journey. We've learned a lot of things along the way. And as I've gotten to know our panelists, each of them have their own story. And so I want to start by just getting you to know them, and then second to hear their stories, and then we're going to get, as quickly as we can, back to the tables, hopefully to have more in-depth conversations so you can really dig in and get some of the questions that are really, you want to learn more about. So, Anne, would you?
Hi, I'm Anne Yoakum, and I'm a visiting professor of practice at Tulane University. I teach design thinking, and I'm part of, I'm an inaugural sort of faculty member for the new Taylor Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking, which is what we'll get to today when we're telling our social innovation, social entrepreneurship, what a mouthful, story.
Hi everybody, I'm Rick Aubrey. I'm part of Team Tulane with Ann. We do things in a collaborative way at Tulane, certainly in the Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. I'm the Assistant Provost for Social Entrepreneurship and Community Engagement at Tulane, as well as Professor of the Practice of Social Entrepreneurship.
I'm Richard Harrell. I am the director of the UNC Center for Social Justice, which is a 155-year-old center, but for the last 3 years we've been building out the Social Innovation Initiative. That's a pan-university initiative through our center. My background is in law and international development. I worked in Central and Eastern Europe for about 8 years, worked in a lot of the education space, but around legal education, legal reform, and working on a civic engagement network that's in 250 cities around the country of Hungary, working with 40,000 youth. And you'll hear a little bit more details about how our program operates and how we're scaling across not only the University of North Carolina, but across the system. There's 16 universities at UNC.
Hi, I'm Wendy Anberg, and I'm with Walden University based in Minneapolis, and I'm in the School of Public Policy Administration, or faculty member, and have taught social entrepreneurship, and I own a for-profit company and a consulting business that's worked in all sectors, and I've been a development director for Minnesota Public Radio, which most people say, or not. You went to my high school. So we don't have a center. We're the only ones here who don't, I believe, but there is a groundswell movement and grassroots kind of organizing, and actually I developed a proposal for a global center for social entrepreneurship and education, and it is being considered now by the board and senior leadership of the president, so I can tell you a little about the process so far.
Hi everybody, my name is CJ. I'm going to get a spot right, nobody's looking at my back. But CJ Meenan, and I've been teaching entrepreneurship for 25 years now. Back in the late 80s, I helped co-found an organization called NIFTY, the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. We brought inner city and low-income communities the power of entrepreneurship, and did that for 15 years. I retired from NIFTY, and I started working expressively with social entrepreneurs, helping them get started, teaching them, just sharing the information, helping build that field. And that led me to teach where I'm at now at Fairleigh Dickinson University. I teach a program on startup entrepreneurship for veterans, and I'm really proud of that. That's some great work that I enjoy. And I personally just finished up my MBA at Babson College, and while I was there, I was working with one of the other co-founders of NIFTY, and we started to take a look at social entrepreneurship centers across the country. And we started to look at some of what was happening in that market, and we said, you know what, wouldn't it be cool if we started a company to help universities start centers for social entrepreneurship? So that's what we're doing.
I'm going to talk to you about the CUBE, which stands for Creating University-Born Entrepreneurs, which is UNC's Hub for Social Innovation. And oddly, I'm going to start with a sort of homage to someone who just passed away, Dean Smith. Who here knew who Dean Smith is? What do we know about Dean Smith?
Amazing man and coach. The Tar Heel.
Absolutely a Tar Heel.
I'm a Tar Heel. Like Jordan for the Ford.
Michael Jordan. Who's the only person to ever hold Michael Jordan under 20 points a game? Dean Smith.
Proponent of social change and social justice.
Well, that's why I wanted to throw this up here, because Dean Smith won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He won that not because he won the most games in basketball when he retired, though he did win 890 games, and they named the place where he coached after him and named it the Dean Dome. He graduated 96% of his players, not shabby over a 37-year career. Won more championship banners than you can shake a stick at. You go into the stadium and it's draped from the ceiling. But little known or less well known is that he integrated athletics in the South in the 1960s. He started even integrating the restaurants of Chapel Hill by taking African Americans out to dinner. He supported his students when they sat down in the streets outside of Oscar's Cafe, which wouldn't allow African Americans at the counter. Privately, behind the scenes, he funded the School of Social Work to help address child poverty. He made his players go to a federal security prison and scrimmage inmates who were on death row. the list goes on and on. He was an amazing man. That's why he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And the reason I start with that is we were talking internally among ourselves as panelists about the social innovation align with the value system of your university. And at Carolina, absolutely it does. And at Carolina, we're the first public university in the United States. You might not know that. Founded in 1789. The founding mission is about preparing a rising generation for their roles and responsibilities in driving the social, economic, political development of the state of North Carolina. We take that very seriously. That public service ethos, I always wonder if all the students realize it before when they apply, but when they arrive, they really embrace it. And that's why social innovation really is supported from the top to the bottom. A chancellor 100 years ago said the boundaries of the University of North Carolina are coterminous with the boundaries of the state of North Carolina. We're not about an ivory tower that's isolated. We're really about integrating into the community and serving the 100 counties across the state. So bear with me, my computer went to sleep. So the second slide here is Moral March on Raleigh. So I run a social justice center, and we care about inequality, and we want to fight poverty, and we want to fight for fair wages, and we want to fight for immigrant rights and reproductive rights. That's my student executive board, those students holding that banner marching on the Capitol just 2 weeks ago for this Moral March. They're doers, they're active, they're volunteering in the community, they channel a lot of enthusiasm for direct service, but I also just want to highlight that their starting point for social innovation and entrepreneurship isn't a class, it's not curricular, it's not coming out of the business school or the economics department, it's coming out of the streets, it's coming out of the contact sport, engagement in the community, trying to drive social change. And actually, I just got a text message before this session, is that at UNC we have a Center on Poverty, Work, and Opportunity. It's been doing cutting-edge research on poverty statistics in North Carolina. You might not know that 50% of children of color in North Carolina live in poverty. Greensboro, North Carolina is the hungriest city in the United States. 25% of all children in North Carolina are hungry. So the Board of Governors just shut down the Poverty Center because they're tired of hearing those kind of statistics in the newspaper. Our students went down to the Board of Governors and they went in, they held signs, they started reading out letters from deans and other faculty. They got taken away to jail. This is not going away. This is actually the students, this is where social innovation is really critical to the future, I think, of North Carolina. Space. And this is a key element for us, is we have a physical building, 14,000 square feet, right in the historic part, the center of campus. There are 2,000 undergraduates who are members of this center. They run 30 organizations that are doing volunteer work, 50,000 hours worth of community engagement a year. But the top floor of the Y is the Social Innovation Incubator. We've got 10 social businesses in there that we're incubating. But the model isn't that there's social innovation separate from social justice. It's how they interplay and how the principles that we're embracing and driving that social innovation on the third floor seep down into all the activities of our student activities, and all the work that they're doing on microfinance, financial literacy. They're working at hunger and homelessness, more traditional things, public health, getting technology in the poor communities, literacy for immigrants from Burma to Latin America. Just to highlight that most of the ventures in that incubator are student-driven, but not all. About 4 of them are coming out of faculty from the Global Public Health School, the Autism Teach Center, the Department of Anthropology, and a professor in the School of Medicine. This is a point I want to make is about how do we diversify the type of students who are pulled into the orbit of social innovation. And what we found is by tapping federal work-study money, which is earmarked for 7% of federal work-study monies on all of our campuses has to go to community engagement off campus. Very few campuses necessarily do that, but they're required by federal law to. What we do is we use that money to stipend students from what we call in North Carolina Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties. These are the poorest students, lower income students who come into the university. We make a commitment to 600 of them a year that you're going to graduate debt-free. We're going to give you aid as much as we can, and to enable you to get out of college free. You also got to do work study. I purchased their work study time, and in that work study activity, they get into the entrepreneurship pipeline. So it's a diversity pipeline for us. Sorry. Well, and the last thing I want to really focus on is our ventures. So what we've done is we've threaded different parts of the campus through this physical infrastructure of this building, which is kind of like a Switzerland. It's a neutral territory on campus where I can get the economics department, the business school, the law school, the comp sci department, schools of social work, school of education, public health. They're all coming into this center, doing capacity building workshops, doing coaching, helping build these ventures. And so the ventures are beginning to reflect those different academic departments and those allies. So we're very highly collaborative, highly leveraged, highly interdisciplinary. By no means are we only game in town. I'm only telling you about our work, which is outside the curriculum. There's a minor in entrepreneurship. There are academic classes on entrepreneurship all over the campus. There's something called Launching the Venture at the Business School. It's a 4-mod sequence to build your venture. There's a Carolina Challenge. There's all these things that are going on. So we're at just that space where we're integrating them into a physical space, mostly for undergrads. And these teams compete. It's highly competitive. You compete to get into our incubator, our cube, and in there you'll get a 2-year residency, dedicated co-working space, seed funding that's tied to milestones, which we work with you to identify and develop. You'll get intensive coaching, and that coaching comes from the SCORE Mentor Network, or the Small Business Association, and an entrepreneur in residence that we rotate in from different fields. Last year it was a clean tech guy. This year it's an education expert. Our staff also supports, and then pro bono services, where we're linked in with law firms, communications firms in the Research Triangle Park and the local community who help. And the last slide is really, what we're looking at is, can we take this concept for social innovation that's at UNC and begin to talk about whether all 16 or 17 pieces of the UNC system might become nodes or hubs of social innovation. Now they're going to look incredible. I love this conference because there's so many different models, there's so many different ways to do it, and maybe some of your models would work better at my school, maybe our model would work better at yours, but it's that cross-pollination of ideas and the collaboration, and then there's a system, a general administration for the UNC system that helps facilitate that, and so that's the direction we're going. Thank you.
Hi again, we're Team Tulane, and we'll learn a little bit about the work we're doing in our collaborative center. The goal for today is to talk a little bit about the launching and scaling of centers for social innovation. So while we're going to give you the particular examples of what we've done, hopefully this is pitched in a way that it's not necessarily promoting what we're doing as different or better, but just trying to get at substantially what's common about all of us in the room and elsewhere who are trying to create centers for social innovation across the country. So all of us have our own genesis stories for how we started, and while ours might have a particular nature to it, it might be more similar than different to what you're all facing. So for Tulane, for New Orleans, to some extent, the great flowering of what's now going on at the Taylor Center for Social Innovation really began at a very dark moment, just like many other Genesis stories. It started when things were not so good as a result of Hurricane Katrina. And this is what New Orleans looked like 9 years ago. It doesn't look like this anymore. Those of us who live there, it's a fading memory. Many of you outside who haven't visited might still think this is what New Orleans looked like. First and foremost, let me assure you it doesn't. Second of all, besides the horrible devastation, it also served as a challenge to New Orleans in general and Tulane in particular to figure out what, if anything, can and should be done. And it really was as a result of Katrina that the flowering of social innovation and entrepreneurship really blossomed in our city and in our university. Because it was an existential moment for the city. Did it make sense? People were writing us off. Why should New Orleans come back? It's a city that doesn't make sense. Why would I move there, et cetera, et cetera. So it really took an act of courage for our president at the time, Scott Cowan, to reverse that and say, this is really the time to reinvent Tulane, to reinvent New Orleans. Through community engagement, which was already a part of what Tulane did, all of a sudden an activist, engaged, innovative culture started to grow at Tulane University. And many folks who came to Tulane since then, including myself, I came 4 years ago, I'll describe briefly what brought me down here. Those were really the elements for the genesis of the program that we've launched and subsequently has scaled. Why should I come there? What's the moment? What's the opportunity? Why is this an exciting thing for us to do? So what happened was that first and foremost, this started at both the leadership level from our president, but really from the student level as well. So immediately, students through the co-curricular activities that they were engaged with were doing social innovation kind of things, starting little enterprises, particularly getting involved in the education system. And the whole spirit of social entrepreneurship became the lifeblood of the city. In my particular case, I was living in the Bay Area at the time. I was both running a social enterprise. That's what I've done it for a living most of my life. I'm an Ashoka Fellow and other social entrepreneur sort of thing. I did that for 25 years. Also taught at Stanford for a dozen years social entrepreneurship, and I would bring students down to do projects. And there was such energy and such enthusiasm in the community that being part of creating a program at Tulane University to make social innovation and entrepreneurship core to what the mission was of the organization was just a very compelling thing to do. So between the leadership and the ground level, we started building the program. One of the first things we did at Tulane in particular in terms of this launching was engage faculty from across the university. So again, through the president's leadership, what are now 8 faculty positions were created for social entrepreneurship faculty, a tenured faculty in dance, in English, in environmental sciences, in public health, in biomechanical engineering. I mean, all across the university, we selected social entrepreneur professors to be part of the initial cadre of professors to define with us what we could do in social entrepreneurship. And from that, sprung an entire undergraduate minor, which is now transforming itself into an undergraduate major in social entrepreneurship. Designed by the faculty as a whole core curriculum of courses and a process that people go through to participate in our undergraduate program, increasingly engaging graduate students in the process, and this has become one of the most highly demanded undergraduate programs in the campus. The number of people signing up for the courses, enrolling in the minor, is really exceeding all of our expectations. From that started generating a lot of excitement, and initially a donor came to us and said that she wanted to sponsor an X-Prize-like event in partnership with Tulane, because she saw that we were an innovative campus and this general moniker of social innovation and entrepreneurship was appealing to her. Could we host a prize similar to the X-Prize, but at a university setting? And doesn't make sense for a university to do it, so of course we said, of course we'll do it. And so we're doing it. And this water challenge, taking on the problem of hypoxia, led to her realizing that Tulane really thought of itself as innovative, and she then took it to the next level where, in partnership with us, she said she was ready to endow what we now do at Tulane on a much larger scale, and underwrote the development of the Taylor Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking. Through the experience that we had with her, through our already having created this undergraduate program, through all of the work that Tulane was already doing, an overnight success that only, many years in the making is the Taylor Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking that you're about to hear much more about from Anne. So that's how we went about imagining, conceiving the genesis of, and now that's just sort of launching, but now the scaling part. And Anne, my colleague, will tell you about that.
So I want to focus initially on the gift who Phyllis Taylor is the person who gave the gift for our endowment. And I highlight this because if you see what it says, the quotation is very important. It's a driving, it drives what we're doing and how we're even building out the center. And so The goal is to move Tulane to the forefront of universities engaged in solving social problems, and to do so with humility, recognizing that the best ideas often arise from the collective wisdom of the community and not always from the theoretical musings of the experts. And so I just want to focus on those words of humility, solving social problems, and collective wisdom of the community. It builds on the engagement that Tulane, the commitment Tulane made after Katrina to engage in community, where we have required service learning and a variety of different programs on campus. But what we know about Katrina is that it was a moment in time and it was an event, but it highlighted existing social problems that existed in the city, but exist in many of our communities in the United States and around the world. And so the idea that we're focusing on solving these complex social problems really underlies what we're doing as we design the Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking. And the focus on humility leads to how we're actually designing the center. So you'll notice the name is the Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking. And what we're trying to do is incorporate what we consider values of design thinking throughout our process of designing what the center will be, but also the physical space. So we were lucky enough, I won't say lucky enough, it was work, again, planning, and a moment in time where we share a space on campus. We had an agreement with the School of Science and Engineering that at the time they have a new building, the money hasn't been raised for labs yet, and so there was this opportunity to build out a space that we could use as our physical space at the current moment in time for the Center for Social Innovation and Design Thinking. And what we've done is use what I would consider in part is engaged design, community-based design, using the university as the client in some ways, and the students at the university and the faculty as clients, as we build out the space. And what you see with the tree, that's my classroom. I feel really lucky. For those of you who have fluorescent lights in your classroom, I have fluorescent lights, but I look out at that tree. So we build out a space of design thinking, a space that's really really conducive for design thinking exercises. Let me hurry up. And so here we are literally physically building out the space with our students. These are social innovation, social entrepreneurship students. So the 100 students are minor students who are engaged in our core classes. You don't have to be a minor to take the intro course. And then you have faculty spread throughout. The person who's in charge of intellectual property at the university came out to build out the space on the day that we did that. And the woman who led that effort is actually here, who's a landscape architect, an artist by training, and she actually helped us design the space. So where we are today, we're in build-out phase. I say we're in startup. We have all this experience over the last 10 years that led us to this moment in time where we were lucky enough or had the opportunity to get this gift. And so we're in startup mode with the constraints of the university, which I think is an interesting space, and I look forward to talking to you more about that. And so where we are right now is we're doing an environmental scan. So I've been talking to many of you, and also we're traveling in some ways and exploring other centers around the country and what ours might do and where we might fit into the landscape. We're defining design thinking is at the core, both in terms of the development, but also in thinking about what does design thinking mean at Tulane. So how do we use design thinking to break down silos, both in terms of programming, and so how we provide services to students, but also how we, across disciplines. So how can we use design thinking and we're defining what design thinking means. When I figure it out, come talk to me about a year, but we're working on it right now. So, and you can come listen to a plug. You can listen to our session tomorrow. I think we're talking about it again. We're expanding graduate programming. We're focused on coordination and collaboration with the SIC endowed professors, and we're focused on research and scholarship. And I just wanted to leave these words. These are words that I often use when it comes to design thinking, but these are many of the words that we're using to underlie and underpin what the center is about. So convergent, iterative, service. And this is our question. Sorry.
No. And so this is what those of you sitting at our table will help us figure out.
Yes, so this is our question. How does the Taylor Center, but we mean centers broadly, stay fluid, flexible, agile in the constraints of the academy? So how do we embrace those moments of design thinking, prototype, and willingness to fail in the space where sometimes failure isn't acceptable? There were two of us, so I feel like we got 10.